I'm Jessica, 27 years old, and last Tuesday, I was standing in Bellamy's jewelry, admiring diamond earrings I'd saved months to buy. After years of barely scraping by, I finally had something to celebrate. That's when my sister Amber stormed in, her face twisted with rage. Before I could explain, her hand connected with my cheek, the sound echoing through the silent store. What happened next changed everything. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're watching from and hit that like button if you've ever had a family member humiliate you in public. Growing up with Amber was like living in the shadow of a tornado. She was 2 years older, prettier, and somehow always the center of attention. While I worked after-school jobs since 16, Amber flitted between hobbies and friend groups, confident our parents would cover her expenses. They always did. Our childhood home in suburban Phoenix wasn't fancy, but we never went without necessities. Dad worked as a high school math teacher, and Mom managed a small clothing boutique. They weren't wealthy, but they scraped together enough to give Amber everything she wanted: dance lessons, cheerleading camps, new clothes every season. Meanwhile, I saved my babysitting money to buy art supplies and graphic design software. Jessica, be reasonable, Mom would say whenever I pointed out the disparity. Your sister needs more support. You've always been so independent. Independent wasn't a choice, it was survival. By 20, I had moved out, working full-time at a print shop while taking night classes for my graphic design degree. Amber stayed home until 25, when our parents finally purchased her condo down payment as a graduation gift after her third attempt at community college. Last month marked my 5th anniversary at Boyd Creative, where I'd worked my way up from junior designer to lead on several major accounts. My boss, Natalie, had just awarded me a substantial raise after I landed the Peterson campaign. For once, I had breathing room in my budget and decided to buy something I'd never allowed myself: real diamond earrings. The Sunday before the jewelry store incident, we gathered at my parents' house for their monthly family dinner. I'd been excited to share my promotion news, but as usual, Amber commandeered the conversation. Everyone, I have an announcement, she'd squealed, flashing a sizable diamond ring. Trevor proposed. We're getting married next spring. Trevor, her boyfriend of 5 months, grinned uncomfortably beside her. He worked in commercial real estate and drove an expensive car, which seemed to be his primary appeal to my sister. Oh, sweetheart, that's wonderful. Mom rushed to embrace her while Dad clapped Trevor on the back. When I finally managed to mention my promotion, Mom nodded distractedly. That's nice, honey. Now, Amber, tell us how he proposed. That night, I decided the earrings weren't an indulgence, but a statement. A reminder that my accomplishments mattered, even if only to me. Bellamy's wasn't the most expensive jewelry store in Phoenix, but it was certainly the most intimidating. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting prismatic light across glass display cases. The sales staff wore tailored black suits, and security cameras monitored every angle. I'd walked past the store dozens of times, but never dared enter. That Tuesday morning, I took a half-day off work and put on my best navy blue dress. I styled my shoulder-length brown hair, applied subtle makeup, and even wore heels, a rarity for someone who lived in sneakers and jeans. I wanted to look the part of someone who belonged in a fine jewelry store. Pushing open the heavy glass door, I was greeted by the gentle notes of classical music and the subtle scent of expensive perfume. A tall, elegant woman with silver-streaked black hair approached with a warm smile. Welcome to Bellamy's.
Imtara.
How may I assist you today? My mouth went dry. I'm looking for diamond earrings. Something small but good quality. It's my first real purchase. Instead of the condescension I feared, Tara's eyes lit up. Your first diamonds. That's a special milestone. Let's find something perfect for you. She led me to a display case with dozens of earrings, explaining cut grades and clarity as she selected several pairs. I was beginning to relax when the door chimed, announcing another customer. I wouldn't have turned around except for the familiar voice that cut through the refined atmosphere like a jagged knife. Oh my God, Jessica? What are you doing here? Amber stood in the doorway, flanked by 2 women I recognized as her college friends, Bridget and Kayla. My sister wore skin-tight white jeans, a pink silk blouse, and heels that put her 3 inches above my height. Her recently highlighted blonde hair cascaded in perfect waves past her shoulders. "Are you lost?" she continued, her voice carrying through the quiet store. "Isn't this place a bit out of your league?" Tara's eyebrows rose slightly, but her professional demeanor remained intact. "Your sister is looking at our diamond collection. Would you care to join us?" "Sister?" Amber laughed, striding toward us with her friends trailing behind. "Yes, unfortunately we share DNA. Though you'd never guess it looking at us." The implied comparison hung in the air. Amber had always been the pretty one, with her blonde hair and blue eyes. I took after our father's side with darker features and a more athletic build. "I didn't know you were shopping today," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Are you looking for wedding bands?" "Just browsing," Amber shrugged, peering into the case. "Trevor and I will probably go to Cartier in Scottsdale." "What are you buying? Costume jewelry?" Tara cleared her throat. "Actually, your sister has excellent taste. She's considering these half-carat diamond studs." Amber's eyes narrowed as she examined the earrings Tara held. "Half-carat? With your salary? That seems excessive." "I got a promotion," I said, feeling heat rise to my face. "I can afford them." "A promotion at that little print shop? Impressive." Amber's tone dripped with sarcasm. "What does that mean? An extra $1 an hour?" Bridget snickered behind her hand while Kayla pretended to examine a bracelet display. I noticed an older couple across the store watching our interaction with disapproving expressions. "It's a graphic design agency, not a print shop," I corrected, though I knew the distinction meant nothing to Amber. "And the raise is substantial." "Well, good for you," Amber replied, picking up another pair of earrings from the display. "Though if you had any financial sense, you'd invest that money instead of blowing it on jewelry. But that's always been your problem, hasn't it?" Poor decision-making. 5 years of therapy had taught me not to take Amber's bait, but her words still stung. Tara, sensing the tension, attempted to redirect. "These would complement your complexion beautifully," she said, holding up the earrings to my ear. "The princess-cut catches light magnificently." "They're perfect," I agreed, deliberately ignoring Amber. "I'll take them." "Seriously?" Amber stepped closer, her perfume overwhelming. "You're going to spend thousands on earrings right after I announce my engagement? This is so typical of you." The accusation blindsided me. "What does my buying earrings have to do with your engagement? You can't stand that I'm the center of attention for once. You've always been jealous of me." Amber's voice rose, causing a security guard near the entrance to glance our way. "For once?" I laughed incredulously. "You've always been the center of attention." "I've spent my life in your shadow." "Ladies," Tara interjected, "perhaps we could." "In my shadow?" Amber cut her off. "That's rich. You're the one mom and dad brag about with your scholarship and career. Poor Amber can't compete with perfect Jessica." The distortion of reality was so complete it momentarily stunned me. Had we grown up in the same household? Had she not noticed the countless times our parents had prioritized her needs, her wants, her dramas? "That's not true and you know it," I said quietly, conscious of the audience we'd attracted. 2 more sales associates had paused their activities to watch, and an elegant woman browsing necklaces had stepped back from her display. "You know what? I don't have to listen to this." I turned to Tara. "I'd like to purchase the earrings now. Don't you dare walk away from me." Amber grabbed my arm, her manicured nails digging into my skin. I pulled away. "Don't make a scene, Amber. This is embarrassing."
"I'm embarrassing."
"You're the one buying jewelry you can't afford just to upstage my engagement. Not everything is about you," I said, my patience finally snapping. "This has nothing to do with your engagement. I earned this money. I saved for months, and I'm buying something nice for myself for once." Tara discreetly slid the earrings into a velvet box and moved toward the register, clearly hoping to expedite the transaction before the situation escalated further. Amber followed, her face flushing. "How much are those earrings anyway?" Tara hesitated, looking at me for permission. I nodded. These are priced at $2,800, she said calmly. Amber's jaw dropped. $3,000? Are you insane? That's what Mom and Dad spent on my entire semester of college. That they paid for. I reminded her. I worked through school. This is my money. It's a waste. A complete waste. Amber's voice echoed through the store. You're just trying to prove something because you're jealous of my ring, my fiancé, my life. I'm not jealous of you, Amber. I never have been. The simple truth seemed to snap something in her. Her face contorted with rage, and before I could react, her hand swung through the air and connected with my cheek. The sound cracked like a whip in the hushed store. Pain bloomed across my face as tears sprang to my eyes. The store fell completely silent, the classical music suddenly muted, as if someone had turned down the volume on reality itself. My hand went to my burning cheek as I stared at my sister in disbelief. In 27 years, through all our fights and disagreements, she had never struck me. Not once. Tara's mouth formed a perfect O of shock. Bridget and Kayla had frozen mid-motion, suddenly interested in examining the floor tiles. The security guard had straightened and was moving toward us. And then a deep, authoritative voice broke the silence from behind me. Touch my wife again and see what happens. The voice belonged to a tall man in his late 30s, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that screamed custom tailoring. His dark hair was styled with precision, and his jawline could have been carved from marble. But what struck me most were his eyes, steel gray and absolutely unwavering as they fixed on Amber. Excuse me? Amber stammered, her bravado faltering. The man stepped forward, positioning himself slightly in front of me. You heard me. If you raise a hand to my wife again, you'll regret it. Confusion rippled through the store. Tara looked between us with wide eyes. Even the security guard paused his approach, uncertainty written across his face. Your wife, Amber repeated, her gaze darting between the stranger and me. I was equally confused, but too stunned to speak. Wife. I'd never seen this man before in my life. Yes, my wife, the man continued, his voice controlled but hard as granite. And I don't appreciate witnessing her being assaulted in public. A flicker of fear crossed Amber's face as she took in the man's expensive watch, the quality of his suit, and his commanding presence. For once, she seemed at a loss for words. The man turned slightly toward me, and I caught a flash of confusion in his eyes when he saw my face more clearly. His confident expression faltered for just a moment before he recovered. Claire, are you all right? He asked, his tone softening considerably. I'm not. I began, but he had already turned back to Amber. I don't know who you are or what your problem is, but this behavior is completely unacceptable, he continued. I suggest you leave before I have security escort you out. Amber's shock was giving way to indignation. Do you even know who I am? That's my sister, not your wife. Her name is Jessica. The man blinked, looking back at me more carefully. A slight flush crept up his neck as realization dawned. I apologize for the confusion, he said, his composure slipping momentarily. But my point stands. Your behavior is inexcusable. I finally found my voice. Who are you? Harrison Walsh, he replied, extending his hand. And I sincerely apologize for the misunderstanding. From behind, you look remarkably like my wife Claire. The name registered instantly. Harrison Walsh was the founder of Innovate Tech, a software company that had revolutionized digital security. His net worth was estimated at several $billion, and his face occasionally appeared in business magazines and tech news. You're Harrison Walsh? Amber's tone shifted dramatically, hostility morphing into sickening sweetness. Oh my goodness, what an honor. I'm such a fan of your work. Harrison didn't even look at her. Are you all right? He asked me again. That looked painful. I nodded, my cheek still stinging. I'm fine. Thank you for intervening, even if it was a case of mistaken identity. The mistake was mine, but my concern is genuine, Harrison said. Family disagreements shouldn't escalate to physical violence. It wasn't a disagreement, Amber interjected, trying to salvage the situation. We were just playing around. Sisters, you know? Jessica knows I didn't mean anything by it. The baldness of the lie made my blood boil. That's not true. You slapped me because I wouldn't let you make me feel small about buying something nice for myself. That's absurd. Amber protested, looking at Harrison with a pleading expression. Jessica always exaggerates. She's upset because I just got engaged and she's still single. Harrison's expression remained impassive. I witnessed the entire exchange. You were belittling her accomplishments and attempting to make her feel guilty for spending her own money. When that didn't work, you resorted to physical aggression. The security guard had finally reached our group, accompanied by a distinguished older man in a pinstripe suit. Mr. Walsh, the older man said, his voice deferential. Is there a problem? Mr. Bellamy. Harrison nodded in greeting. This woman, he gestured to Amber, just assaulted another customer. So this was the Bellamy of Bellamy's Jewelry. The owner himself had come to investigate the disturbance. I did no such thing. Amber protested. This is all a misunderstanding. Tell them, Jessica. All eyes turned to me. For a moment, I felt the familiar urge to smooth things over, to minimize the incident for the sake of family peace. It was what I'd always done. But something had shifted inside me when Amber's palm connected with my face. She slapped me, I said clearly, because I decided to buy these earrings instead of listening to her criticize me. Mr. Bellamy's expression hardened. We have a zero-tolerance policy for violent behavior in our establishment. I'm afraid I must ask you to leave immediately. You can't be serious, Amber sputtered. Do you know who our father is? I don't believe that's relevant, Mr. Bellamy replied coolly. Frank, please escort this lady and her companions to the exit. The security guard stepped forward. This way, please. Jessica, you can't let them do this. Amber's voice rose again. Tell them we were just having a sisterly spat. I said nothing, watching as Frank gently but firmly guided Amber toward the door. Bridget and Kayla followed, their expressions mortified. At the door, Amber turned back. You'll regret this, Jessica. Wait until Mom and Dad hear about how you humiliated me in public. After they left, the store remained uncomfortably quiet. Harrison Walsh turned to me, genuine regret in his expression. I've made this situation more complicated and I apologize. Please allow me to make it up to you. Perhaps coffee after you've completed your purchase? I'd like to explain properly. I hesitated, unsure what to make of this surreal turn of events. But something in his earnest expression made me nod. Okay, coffee would be nice. Mr. Bellamy personally completed my transaction, apologizing profusely for the unfortunate incident in his store. I signed the credit card slip with shaking hands, still processing the whirlwind of events. As Tara handed me the distinctive blue bag containing my earrings, Harrison Walsh waited patiently by the door. I joined him, wondering what strange twist of fate had brought a billionaire tech mogul into my family drama. Harrison suggested a small cafe around the corner, away from the busy main street. It was an elegant space with private booths and soft jazz playing in the background, the kind of place I'd normally walk past, assuming it was beyond my budget. I come here when I need to think, Harrison explained as a server led us to a corner table. The espresso is excellent, and they respect privacy. Once we were seated with coffee, an Americano for him, a latte for me, Harrison leaned forward with an apologetic expression. I need to explain what happened back there. My wife Claire is in London on business, and I was at Bellamy's looking for an anniversary gift. When I saw you from behind, your height, your hair color, and style, even the blue dress, you looked remarkably like her. When that woman slapped you, I reacted instinctively. It's okay, I said, still processing the bizarre sequence of events. Your intervention probably prevented things from getting worse. Amber doesn't handle public correction well. Harrison's expression darkened slightly. Family can be complicated. I shouldn't presume to understand your relationship with your sister. No, you read the situation correctly, I admitted, wrapping my hands around the warm mug. Amber has always been the favored child. She's not used to me standing up for myself. Family dynamics, Harrison nodded. I'm familiar with the concept. My younger brother and I had a similar relationship for many years. Something in his tone made me curious. Did it improve? Harrison took a sip of his coffee before answering. Yes, eventually. It took distance, time, and some difficult conversations. Tyler resented living in my shadow after Innovate Tech took off. He felt compared to me at every turn. That sounds familiar, I said. Though in my case, I was always in Amber's shadow. The underlying issue is the same. Comparison is the thief of joy, Harrison replied. Once Tyler and I acknowledged the wedge between us and started communicating honestly, things improved. He runs our European operations now, completely on his own merit. The conversation flowed surprisingly easily. Harrison Walsh might have been a billionaire, but he spoke without pretension, listening attentively as I explained more about my relationship with Amber and my parents. So these earrings, he gestured to the Bellamy's bag beside me. They represent more than just jewelry to you. They're proof that my work has value. I confirmed. That I have value, independent of my family's approval. Harrison nodded thoughtfully. I understand that completely. When I sold my first software at 19, I used the money to buy a ridiculously expensive watch. Not because I needed it, but because it represented validation. Exactly, I said, surprised at how precisely he'd captured the feeling. Our coffee cups were empty when Harrison glanced at his phone and frowned slightly. I have a meeting in 30 minutes, but I've enjoyed our conversation. He hesitated, then asked, what exactly do you do in graphic design? I'm a lead designer at Boyd Creative. We handle branding and marketing for several national accounts. I specialize in digital media integration. Harrison's eyes lit with interest. Digital media integration? We're actually looking for someone with that expertise at Innovate Tech. Our marketing team needs fresh perspectives for our new consumer security app. Really? I couldn't hide my surprise. Would you be interested in sending me your portfolio? No pressure, of course. Just an opportunity to explore. My heart raced at the prospect. Innovate Tech was known for its innovative work environment and exceptional compensation packages. Even an interview would be a valuable experience. I'd love to, I replied, trying to sound professional rather than eager. Harrison smiled and pulled out a business card. Email me directly. I'll make sure it gets to our creative director. As we stood to leave, Harrison paused. One more thing. Don't let your sister's reaction diminish your accomplishment today. Those earrings represent your hard work. Wear them with pride. I nodded, touched by his understanding. Thank you for everything. Walking back to my car, I felt strangely light despite the morning's drama. The encounter with Amber had been painful, but Harrison's unexpected mentorship had shifted something in my perspective. For perhaps the first time, I'd stood my ground without apologizing for taking up space. My phone buzzed with incoming texts, 3 from my mother, 2 from my father, and 7 from Amber. I silenced it without reading them. Whatever family storm was brewing could wait until I was ready to face it. By the time I arrived home that evening, my phone had accumulated 23 text messages and 9 missed calls. I scrolled through them as I kicked off my shoes and collapsed onto my couch. The texts from Amber escalated from angry, "How dare you embarrass me like that?" to manipulative, "Mom is really upset with you," to fake conciliatory, "I forgive you for overreacting." My parents' messages were predictably one-sided, demanding I call immediately to explain why I'd caused a scene and humiliated my sister. None of them mentioned the slap. I set the phone aside and took out the velvet box containing my new earrings. Under the soft lamplight, the diamonds caught fire, scattering tiny rainbows across my living room wall. They were beautiful, but more importantly, they were mine. Earned through my own efforts, chosen with my own taste, purchased with my own money. Instead of calling my family, I spent the evening polishing my digital portfolio. If Harrison Walsh's offer was genuine, I wanted to be prepared. I selected my strongest projects, updated my resume, and crafted a professional email to the address on his business card. The response came the next morning while I was at work, making me almost drop my coffee mug. Jessica, thank you for sending your impressive portfolio. Our creative director, Amy Sullivan, would like to meet with you this Friday at 2 p.m. Please let me know if this works with your schedule. Regards, Harrison Walsh. It wasn't just a courtesy introduction. He was actually arranging an interview. I quickly responded, confirming the time, then spent the rest of the morning in a haze of disbelief and excitement. That evening, I finally steeled myself to call my parents. As expected, my mother answered with immediate disapproval. Jessica Marie Hayes, what on earth happened yesterday? Amber is absolutely devastated. I took a deep breath. Mom, did Amber tell you she slapped me across the face in a public store? A pause. She said there was a misunderstanding. That you were making a scene about her engagement. That's not what happened, I said firmly. I was buying earrings with money from my recent promotion, which, by the way, no one congratulated me on at Sunday dinner. Amber showed up, criticized me, and when I wouldn't back down, she slapped me hard enough to leave a mark. Well, I'm sure she didn't mean she meant it, I interrupted. And a stranger had to intervene because it was so inappropriate. The store owner asked her to leave. A stranger? Amber mentioned some man getting involved in family business where he didn't belong. I almost laughed. That some man was Harrison Walsh. Who? The founder of Innovate Tech. A billionaire who recognized abusive behavior when he saw it. My mother fell silent, processing this information. Finally, she said, your sister is still very upset. I'm sure she is. Being held accountable is upsetting when you're not used to it. Jessica. That's a terrible thing to say about your sister. Is it? Mom. When was the last time Amber faced consequences for her actions? When was the last time you or Dad didn't take her side? Another pause. We don't take sides. This time I did laugh. Mom, you've been taking sides our entire lives. I'm just finally acknowledging it. I don't know what's gotten into you, my mother replied, her voice tight. This isn't like you at all. Maybe that's the problem, I said quietly. Maybe it's exactly what should have been like me all along. The conversation ended shortly after, with my mother expressing disappointment in my attitude and suggesting I call Amber to apologize. I promised to think about it, knowing I had no intention of making that call. Friday arrived with a mixture of anticipation and nerves. I chose a professional outfit, wore my new earrings for confidence, and arrived at the sleek Innovate Tech headquarters 15 minutes early. The building was a marvel of modern architecture, all glass and sustainable materials, with a lobby featuring a spectacular living wall of tropical plants. The receptionist directed me to the 14th floor, where I was greeted by a friendly assistant named Jordan. Miss Sullivan is running a few minutes late, Jordan explained, leading me to a comfortable waiting area. Can I get you water or coffee? Water would be great, thank you. As Jordan walked away, a familiar voice called my name. Harrison Walsh approached with a warm smile, dressed more casually than at our first meeting in dark jeans and a navy button-down. Jessica, glad you could make it. How are you? Good, thank you. A bit nervous, I admitted. No need to be. Amy was impressed with your portfolio, particularly the Sunrise Healthcare campaign. She's eager to meet you. We chatted briefly about the company until a striking woman with copper-colored hair and vibrant green glasses approached. You must be Jessica, she said, extending her hand.
I'm Amy Sullivan.
Sorry for the delay, creative emergencies. You know how it is. Absolutely, I smiled, instantly liking her direct manner. Harrison, are you sitting in? Amy asked. If that's all right with both of you, he replied. I have a personal interest in this particular hire. Amy raised an eyebrow but nodded. Let's use the Aspen conference room. The interview was unlike any I'd experienced. Rather than standard questions about strengths and weaknesses, Amy engaged me in a detailed discussion about design philosophy and creative problem solving. She showed me current Innovate Tech marketing materials and asked for my honest critique, nodding appreciatively at my suggestions. Harrison mostly observed, occasionally asking insightful questions about my collaborative process and adaptability. His presence was supportive rather than intimidating, and I found myself speaking with unexpected confidence about my vision and capabilities. One last question, Amy said, glancing at Harrison before continuing. Our team works closely with developers who can be, let's say, particular about their creations. How do you handle strong personalities and creative conflicts? I thought about the countless times I'd navigated Amber's demands and my parents' expectations, finding diplomatic solutions while preserving my own boundaries. I believe in finding the common goal beneath the conflict, I replied. Most creative disagreements stem from everyone wanting the best outcome, but seeing different paths to get there. I try to honor each perspective while keeping the ultimate purpose in focus. Amy nodded, seemingly satisfied. Well, Jessica, this has been illuminating. We have a few more candidates to interview, but you'll hear from us by next Wednesday. As Amy gathered her notes, Harrison asked, "Do you have time for a quick tour before you leave?" "I'd love that," I replied, surprised by the offer. Harrison led me through the innovative workspace, introducing me to various team members along the way. The environment was collaborative yet focused, with thoughtful amenities like quiet pods, standing desks, and a stunning rooftop garden where employees could work outdoors in good weather. "What do you think?" Harrison asked as we stood on the rooftop, overlooking the city. "It's incredible," I answered honestly. "Everything seems designed to support both creativity and well-being." "That's exactly the balance we strive for," he nodded. "When people feel valued, they produce their best work." As we returned to the lobby, Harrison paused. "I hope you don't find this intrusive, but I wanted to ask, how are things with your family after Tuesday's incident?" I sighed. "Complicated. They expect me to apologize to Amber. They don't see her behavior as the problem." Harrison's expression was thoughtful. "Family patterns are persistent. It took years for my brother and me to break ours." He hesitated, then added, "Whatever happens with this position, Jessica, don't lose the confidence you showed at Bellamy's. That kind of self-advocacy is valuable everywhere, not just in jewelry stores." "Thank you," I said, genuinely moved by his continued mentorship. "That means a lot." As I drove home, I reflected on the strange sequence of events that had led me here. A painful public confrontation had somehow opened doors I never imagined approaching. Whether or not I got the job, something fundamental had shifted in how I viewed myself and my capabilities. My phone rang as I pulled into my apartment complex. It was Amber. After a moment's hesitation, I answered. "Hello." "Jessica." Her voice was tight. "We need to talk about what happened." I took a deep breath. "Yes, we do. But not if the conversation begins with you expecting me to apologize." "Excuse me?" Her tone sharpened. "You embarrass me in front of my friends." "No, Amber. You embarrassed yourself by slapping me in public. That's assault, by the way." "Don't be so dramatic. It was barely a tap." "It was hard enough to leave a mark," I countered. "And you did it because I wouldn't let you make me feel bad about buying something nice for myself." "This isn't about the stupid earrings," she snapped. "It's about you trying to steal attention from my engagement." The familiar accusation might once have made me defensive. Now, it just sounded pathetic. "Amber, buying earrings has nothing to do with your engagement. Not everything is about you." "You've changed," she said accusingly. "You're not the same sister anymore." "You're right," I agreed. "I have changed. I'm not going to shrink myself to make you comfortable anymore." The line went silent for several seconds. When Amber spoke again, her voice was cooler, more controlled. "Mom and Dad want us all at dinner this Sunday. They expect you to be there." It was a command, not an invitation. In the past, I would have complied automatically. "I'll think about it," I said instead. "I have a lot going on right now." "What could you possibly have going on?" The dismissive tone was so familiar it almost made me laugh. "Actually, I just interviewed at Innovate Tech. That some man who intervened at the jewelry store? He arranged it." Another silence. "You're making that up." "Why would I make that up?" "To sound important," Amber replied, but I could hear the uncertainty in her voice. "Nobody gets jobs through random encounters." "Believe what you want," I said, suddenly tired of the conversation. I need to go. If I decide to come Sunday, I'll let Mom know. I ended the call before she could respond, feeling a strange mixture of sadness and liberation. The familiar script of our relationship was changing, and while change was necessary, it wasn't painless. Sunday arrived with a text from my mother. Dinner at 5. Dad's making his pot roast. Please be on time and dress nicely. The message made no mention of our tense conversation or the incident with Amber. It was as if she expected everything to revert to normal through sheer force of will. In the past, I might have complied, showing up with a placating smile and an unspoken apology in my demeanor. Instead, I texted back, I'll be there at 5:15. I have errands to run first. A small rebellion, but significant. I was no longer agreeing to their terms without question. I dressed carefully in black jeans, a forest green blouse, and after a moment's deliberation, my new diamond earrings. They caught the light as I turned my head, reminding me of the strength I'd found at Bellamy's. Whatever happened at dinner, I would not diminish myself to keep the peace. The drive to my parents' suburban home felt longer than usual. I rehearsed potential responses to accusations, practicing firm but calm replies to the criticism I anticipated. By the time I pulled into the driveway at 5:17, my palms were sweating, but my resolve was intact. My father answered the door, his expression a mixture of disapproval and concern. You're late, he said by way of greeting. Hello to you too, Dad, I replied, stepping past him into the familiar entryway. The house smelled of pot roast and tension. In the living room, Amber sat perched on the edge of the sofa, scrolling through her phone. She glanced up as I entered, her expression immediately hardening. Look who finally decided to show up, she commented to no one in particular. I chose not to engage, instead walking through to the kitchen where my mother was arranging a salad. She looked up with a tight smile. Jessica, good, you're here. Could you set the table? The familiar request, always directed at me, never at Amber, almost made me acquiesce automatically. Instead, I paused. Actually, Mom, I thought we might talk first. About what happened at Bellamy's. Her hands stilled on the salad tongs. I don't think that's necessary. We've all had time to cool down. Let's just have a nice family dinner. A nice family dinner where we pretend Amber didn't slap me in public? Where we act like nothing happened? My mother's smile became strained. Jessica, please. Your sister is under a lot of stress with the wedding planning. Let's not make mountains out of molehills. The minimization was so predictable it was almost comical. Before I could respond, Amber appeared in the doorway. Are you still going on about that? It was days ago. 5 days, I corrected. And yes, I'm still going on about it because no one has acknowledged what actually happened. My father joined us, his expression wary. What's all this about? Jessica is being dramatic about our little disagreement at the jewelry store. Amber rolled her eyes. It wasn't a disagreement. You slapped me across the face because I wouldn't let you bully me. Girls, my father interjected, let's calm down, and I am calm. I interrupted.
I am stating facts.
Amber assaulted me in public. A store owner witnessed it and asked her to leave. A complete stranger had to intervene. That man had no right to get involved in family business, my mother said primly. That man, I emphasized, recognized abusive behavior when he saw it. Something this family seems incapable of doing. A heavy silence fell over the kitchen. My mother's face had paled, and my father's eyebrows drew together in a deep frown. Abusive, he repeated. That's a serious accusation, Jessica. It's not an accusation. It's a description, I replied, keeping my voice steady. Amber has been verbally tearing me down for years, and you've both enabled it. Tuesday was just the first time it became physical. That is completely unfair, Amber protested. I've always been supportive of you. The blatant revision of history might once have made me doubt my own experience. Now, it just reinforced my resolve. Name one time, I challenged. One specific instance where you supported me instead of competing with me or diminishing my achievements. Amber opened her mouth, then closed it again. Her eyes darted to our parents for rescue. Jessica, my mother began, her tone conciliatory. Families have ups and downs. Nobody's perfect, but we love each other, and that's what matters. Love without respect isn't love, I replied. It's control. And I'm done being controlled. What does that mean? My father asked, his voice sharpening with concern. I took a deep breath. It means I'm setting boundaries. I won't participate in family gatherings where Amber's behavior is excused and mine is policed. I won't pretend everything is fine when it isn't. And I won't apologize for standing up for myself. So you're giving us an ultimatum? My father's tone was incredulous.
No, Dad.
I'm telling you what I need to have a healthy relationship with all of you. What you do with that information is your choice. Amber scoffed. This is ridiculous. You're acting like I committed some horrible crime. It was one slap. One slap too many. I replied evenly. And it's not just about the slap. It's about years of being treated as less than, of having my accomplishments minimized while yours are celebrated. That's not true, my mother protested. We've always been proud of both our girls. Really? When I told you about my promotion, you barely acknowledged it. When Amber announced her engagement to a man she's dated for 5 months, you threw an impromptu celebration. That's different, my father interjected. An engagement is a life event. And a significant career advancement isn't. I challenged. Or is it just that Amber's achievements align with what you value, while mine don't? The question hung in the air, uncomfortable in its accuracy. My mother busied herself with the salad again, avoiding eye contact. My father shifted his weight, looking suddenly older. Those are pretty earrings, my mother said abruptly, changing the subject. New? Yes, I touched one reflexively. These are what I was buying when Amber slapped me. They look expensive, she commented, her tone suggesting disapproval. They were. I could afford them because of my promotion. Well, they're lovely, she conceded reluctantly. We moved to the dining room in uneasy silence. As we took our usual seats, I noticed my mother had set a 5th place. Are we expecting someone? I asked. Trevor's joining us, Amber replied with a smug smile. My fiancé should be part of family dinners, don't you think? The emphasis on fiancé was deliberate, a reminder of her relationship status compared to my single state. It was such a transparent attempt to reclaim superiority that I almost pitted her. The doorbell rang, and Amber jumped up to answer it. She returned moments later with Trevor, a tall man with a pleasant face and uncertain eyes. He nodded politely in my direction as Amber guided him to the seat beside her. Trevor, you remember my sister Jessica, she said, her tone suggesting I was a distant acquaintance rather than immediate family. Of course, he smiled. Congratulations on your promotion. Amber mentioned you work in graphic design. She did. I couldn't hide my surprise. Yes, she said you're quite talented. I glanced at Amber, who was suddenly very interested in adjusting her napkin. Had she actually said something positive about me? Thank you, I replied. And congratulations on your engagement. The dinner proceeded with careful conversation, everyone navigating around the earlier confrontation. My father discussed an upcoming school board meeting, my mother described issues with her boutique's new inventory system, and Trevor shared details about a property he was listing. As dessert was served, my mother's apple pie, Trevor noticed my earrings. Those are beautiful, he commented. Amber was telling me about your visit to Bellamy's. Quite an upscale place. The reference to our visit made Amber tense visibly. I wondered exactly what version of events she had shared with her fiancé. Yes, it was my first time there, I replied carefully. I had an unexpected encounter with Harrison Walsh while shopping. Trevor's eyebrows shot up. The Harrison Walsh? Of Innovate Tech. The same, I confirmed. Actually, I interviewed at his company on Friday. You did, my mother interjected, clearly surprised. You didn't mention that. I wasn't sure you'd be interested. I replied honestly. It's just a career opportunity, not a life event. My father winced slightly at having his words reflected back to him. Of course we're interested, he said. Tell us about it. So I did, describing the impressive headquarters, Amy Sullivan's engaging interview style, and the innovative work environment. As I spoke, I realized my family was listening with genuine attention for perhaps the first time in years. They said they'll let me know by Wednesday. I concluded. It would be a significant step up in both responsibility and compensation. That's wonderful, Jessica, my mother said, and I was surprised by the sincerity in her voice. We are proud of you, you know, even if we don't always show it properly. The simple acknowledgement brought unexpected tears to my eyes. It wasn't an apology, but it was a beginning. Amber remained quiet throughout this exchange, but as we cleared the dessert plates, she approached me in the kitchen. Did you really meet Harrison Walsh? She asked, her voice low enough that our parents couldn't hear. Yes, I replied, rinsing a plate. He mistook me for his wife at first. Amber was silent for a moment, then said, That's actually pretty cool. I looked at her, searching for the sarcasm or hidden barb, but her expression seemed genuine. The earrings do look nice on you, she added awkwardly. I shouldn't have made such a scene at the store. It wasn't exactly an apology, but coming from Amber, it was significant. I decided to meet her halfway. Thank you. And your ring is beautiful. Trevor seems like a good person. She nodded, a small smile playing at her lips.
He is.
He actually lectured me about the slapping thing. Said it was unacceptable. Smart man, I commented, surprised and impressed by Trevor's moral compass. Yeah, Amber agreed. Maybe I got lucky with this one. As I drove home that night, I reflected on the subtle shifts that had occurred. Nothing had been dramatically resolved, no tearful group hugs or profound family revelations. But something had changed in me, certainly, and possibly in them as well. My phone pinged with a text as I pulled into my apartment complex. It was from an unknown number. Jessica, it's Harrison Walsh. Amy was very impressed with your interview. Before we make a formal offer, Claire would like to meet you. She returns from London tomorrow. Lunch on Tuesday? Let me know if you're available. I stared at the message, hardly daring to believe what it implied. A formal offer? From Innovate Tech? As I typed my enthusiastic acceptance, I caught sight of my reflection in the rearview mirror. The diamonds in my ears caught the streetlight, sparkling like tiny stars. They were beautiful, yes, but what they represented was far more valuable. The moment I decided my worth wasn't determined by my sister's opinion or my parents' approval. Sometimes the most painful confrontations led to the most important growth. And sometimes a slap in a jewelry store could change the entire direction of a life. 1 month later, I sat at my sleek new desk on the 12th floor of Innovate Tech headquarters, putting the finishing touches on a presentation for the security app launch. My workspace overlooked the city skyline, with natural light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. A small potted succulent, a welcome gift from my team, sat beside my dual monitors. The transition had been swift and exhilarating. After meeting Claire Walsh, a warm, intelligent woman who bore an uncanny resemblance to me from certain angles, I'd received the formal offer the next day. The salary was nearly double what I'd been making at Boyd Creative, with benefits that included stock options, flexible work arrangements, and a professional development allowance. Giving notice to Natalie had been bittersweet. She'd been a supportive boss and mentor, but even she couldn't deny the opportunity was too good to pass up. How did you even get on their radar? She'd asked, genuinely curious. When I explained the jewelry store incident, she'd laughed in disbelief. Only you, Jessica, would turn getting slapped in public into a career advancement. My new position as senior creative strategist came with both autonomy and responsibility. I led a small team developing the visual identity and user experience for Innovate Tech's consumer products. The work was challenging and fulfilling, pushing me to expand my skills while valuing my existing expertise. Claire had become an unexpected friend and ally. Despite her wealth and position, or perhaps because of it, she was refreshingly unpretentious. We occasionally had lunch together in the rooftop garden, where she shared insights about navigating the corporate world and building genuine relationships within it. Harrison told me about the situation with your sister. She'd confided during one such lunch. I have a similar dynamic with my brother. It took years of therapy for me to stop seeking his approval. Her openness made me feel less alone in my family's struggles. It was comforting to know that even people who seemed to have everything figured out had their own complicated relationships to manage. Harrison maintained a professional distance at work, treating me exactly as he did other team members. But occasionally he'd stop by my desk with a thoughtful question or suggestion, his mentorship subtle but consistent. The other employees seemed to accept me on my own merits rather than as Harrison's find, which was a relief. At home, I'd upgraded to a slightly larger apartment in a building with a fitness center and community garden. The move had been partly practical. The new place was closer to Innovate Tech, but also symbolic, a fresh start to match my new professional chapter. My diamond earrings held a place of honor in my jewelry box, worn for important presentations and moments when I needed to remind myself of my worth. They represented not just a purchase, but a pivotal moment, the day I stopped shrinking to accommodate others' insecurities. My phone buzzed with a text from Amber. Our relationship had entered a strange new phase, not close, exactly, but less antagonistic. After the Sunday dinner confrontation, she'd kept her distance for nearly 2 weeks before sending a brief message. I've been thinking about what happened. I shouldn't have slapped you. That was wrong. I'm sorry. The apology had been sparse, but seemingly sincere. I'd responded with equal brevity. Thank you for acknowledging that. I appreciate the apology. Since then, we'd exchanged occasional texts, mostly surface-level updates, but without the undercurrent of competition that had previously defined our interactions. Today's message was more substantive. Mom's birthday dinner next Saturday. 6 p.m., Trevor and I have news to share. Would like you to be there. I considered the invitation. Family gatherings were still somewhat tense, but each one seemed less fraught than the last. My parents had made small but noticeable efforts to show interest in my new job and life. My father had even visited my new apartment, helping install shelves and expressing genuine admiration for my career advancement. I'll be there, I texted back. Need me to bring anything? Just yourself, came the reply, followed by a second message, and maybe those earrings. Mom mentioned she liked them. The simple acknowledgement made me smile. A month ago, Amber would never have suggested I wear something that might draw attention or compliments. At the end of the workday, I met Claire in the lobby as planned. We developed a tradition of Friday evening walks through the nearby sculpture garden, discussing everything from work projects to book recommendations to family dynamics. How was your week? She asked as we fell into step on the tree-lined path. Productive, I replied. The security app interface is nearly finalized. And I hired a junior designer who has incredible talent with animation. Harrison mentioned your team is ahead of schedule. He's impressed. I felt a flush of pride at the indirect praise. What about you? How was the technology conference? As Claire described her experiences as a keynote speaker, I reflected on how much my life had transformed in just 4 weeks. Beyond the material improvements, better job, nicer apartment, increased financial security, the most significant change was internal. I moved through the world differently now, with confidence rather than apology. The journey hadn't been easy. I'd spent several sessions with a therapist unpacking the family patterns that had shaped my self-perception. Learning to set boundaries without guilt remained a daily practice. But each small victory reinforced my resolve. You seem contemplative today, Claire observed as we paused near a modern sculpture of intertwined metal ribbons. I was just thinking about how different things were a month ago, I admitted. Sometimes I still can't believe that Amber slapping me in Bellamy's led to all this. Claire smiled. The catalyst isn't always pleasant, is it? But sometimes we need a shock to break old patterns. True, I nodded. Though I wouldn't recommend getting publicly assaulted as a career strategy. We both laughed, continuing our walk as the evening light turned golden across the gardens. Later that night, as I prepared dinner in my new kitchen, I found myself humming contentedly. My phone pinged with an email notification. The professional development course I'd applied for had been approved. Another small victory, another step forward. I thought about the upcoming birthday dinner with my family. There would likely be awkward moments, perhaps even tensions. Amber's news might be pregnancy, wedding details, or some other life event that would once again center her in the family narrative. But that was okay. Her moments of celebration didn't diminish mine. There was room for both our stories. The earrings would come with me, not as armor this time, but as a reminder. A reminder that standing in my truth, even when uncomfortable, had led to growth I couldn't have imagined. A reminder that sometimes the most painful confrontations create space for the most meaningful transformations. My journey from that moment in Bellamy's jewelry to my current life hadn't been linear or simple. The path to self-worth rarely is. But each step had been necessary. The humiliation of the slap, the unexpected alliance with Harrison, the confrontation with my family, the opportunity at Innovate Tech, the ongoing work of maintaining boundaries. The diamonds caught the light as I placed them in my jewelry box for Saturday's dinner. They sparkled not just with their inherent brilliance, but with the story they now carried, my story of finding value beyond others' validation. Sometimes life's most important lessons come wrapped in painful packages. Sometimes the moments that feel like endings are actually beginnings. And sometimes, when someone tries to make you feel small, the most powerful response is to expand into your full, magnificent self. Have you ever experienced a painful moment that ultimately led to positive change in your life? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this journey resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need this message today. Remember, your worth isn't determined by others' opinions. It's inherent, unchangeable, and absolutely real. Thank you for listening, and until next time, keep shining bright like those diamonds.